Hello, my name is Rengo, and this video is intended for my IB psychology student. So, what do we do when we open a paper 1 on Wednesday? So, for those that had a lesson with me, I've told you guys already, remember to read all the questions first. Start off with the essays, and cross out the one that you're definitely not going to do. After that, spend around, I'll say 10 to 15 minutes trying to analyze each of the question and write down the types of studies that you're going to include and the types of theories that you're going to include in the answer. Okay guys, so for the biological level of analysis, remember to read the question carefully. So what did I mean by that? If the question asks you to focus on human behavior, stick to human behavior. For example, if I asked you the neurotransmitter on human behavior, don't tell me the Martini and Kensler study on ACH and rats learning a maze, because that's not really human behavior, is it? So what do we focus on? Well, we can use Javinsky's study on on ACH, on abnormal behavior such as induced depression. So these are what we call human behavior. Watch it carefully. Don't state just animal behavior. Another thing we need to look at is ethics. A lot of people love to talk about ethics, and they like to use HM, they like to use Schechter and Singer, but IB doesn't like you to do that. Well, for HM, it's debatable because technically you could use the Cochrane study to talk about the MRI part of HM. That is biological. But the general Miller HM 1957 study is not really focusing on biological, but more on cognitive. So remember, stick to BLOA and read the question carefully. So, for the cognitive level of analysis, what we have to focus on is the key terms of what is a cognitive process. So always try and link back to memory, since memory is the most common cognitive process there is. Yes, I know attention could be a cognitive process, language could be a cognitive process, but I mean, in most of your study, you've been doing memory, so stick to memory. Okay, the other question that is very common is the technology used in the research of CLOA. So, it asks you for technology. It's not just brain imaging, so you can go beyond brain imaging. You can talk about the galvanic skin measure to measure arousal. These are all types of other technology other than brain technology which you could mention. Okay, so for the social cultural level of analysis, again, think about what you're going to use as your theory and what you're going to link to as your study carefully. So one major mistake that a lot of people make is, for example, stereotype. They tell me that stereotype is due to a cognitive schema or just social categorization theory, which leads to stereotype. And the study they use to support this theory is Hamilton and Clifford, illusionary correlation. So that's completely wrong because, well, if you want to talk about illusionary correlation, introduce the theory of illusionary correlation and then link it with the Hamilton-Clifford study. If you decided to use the schema theory, so the social categorization theory, most likely you're going to use about Cohen study on the watching a video of a man having a dinner with a woman, and the woman was either told that she was a waiter or she was a waitress, or she was a librarian, and they asked them what they recall. So these are the studies that links to the social categorization theory, and just stick to those. Another main issue is the cultural difference stuff. Always try and link your answer to cultural differences, because, well, the AO2 marks works really well there. Okay, here are some final tips before we end this video. So, first of all, the general learning outcome, okay? So for the general learning outcome, for the one that is outlining the principles, for each of the LOs, it's good that you guys can remember at least 2 out of the 3 principles there are. And these are just easy giveaway marks, so why not just memorize them, right? For the second general learning outcome, discuss the ethical concern. So first, tell me what are the ethical concerns and use studies to support it. Okay, so we have confidentiality, informed consent, debriefing, harm to participant, which includes psychological harm and physiological harm, these sort of stuff. And remember, privacy is not a concern, and animal ethics is not a concern in terms of IB. Don't talk about those. Okay, and last one is the research method that are used in each of the level of analysis. Well, first, tell me the example first. So for example, what is a lab experiment? And tell me a study that uses a lab experiment, and then evaluate that methods like the lab experiment. Followed by case study, the study itself, evaluate. Then we have, I don't know, correlation, study, evaluate. So I want you guys to structure it like that instead of just, going over a study and say that, ooh, this is a study, yada, 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 and because this is a lab study, it lacks ecological validity. Well, these are not very logical methods since that, well, you kind of do that for every single LO. What makes this one so special, So that's the summary of all the tips, and like I promised, I'm going to post a video like this to kind of help you guys. And remember, try not to stress out too much. Reason being, you guys know the study, you guys know the stuff. We've went over it so many times. Don't let the stress get to you because cortisol will affect your memory. And finally, yeah, good luck on your exams.